All right, here's part 3 of factoring and solving polynomial equations. This is 5.4. What we're going to look at is we're going to be factoring some more, but this time we're going to be factoring by using the grouping method. The main thing you need to look for when we are factoring by grouping, you must have 4 terms. Right? That's the only way you can factor by grouping, is you must have 4 terms. You have anything other than 4 terms, then this will not work. All right, so let's look at our first example. All right, we're just going to keep this simple and basic. All right, usually this is already in standard form. What you're going to do in the process for grouping is what you're going to do is you're going to group the first 2 terms together, and you're going to group the last 2 terms together. Never ever put a parenthesis between the sign and its number or variable. That's a no-no. Always put it in front of the sign. In this case, it probably doesn't really matter, but when you're dealing with a minus or a subtraction, then it's very important. So just do it for all. All right, looking in this first one, what's common in those 2 terms? Remember, you're looking at coefficients and you're looking at variables. All right, in both these coefficients, what number can go into 10 and to 20? And that's 10. And looking at the variables, I have 3 x's here, 2 x's here, so the most I can take out of both terms is 2 x's or an x squared. Now remember, in the first video I told you when we are factoring out, you're actually dividing both terms by this monomial. All right, so 10 divided by 10 is 1. X cubed divided by x squared, so that means 3 minus 2 is 1. So you just have x to the first power. 20 divided by 10 is 2. X squared divided by x squared, that means 2 minus 2, which is 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So you're just left with x plus 2. All right, here I can factor out positive 1. So I'm left with x plus 2. Remember, factoring out a positive number does not change the signs whatsoever. Now if you notice, x plus 2 and x plus 2 are common in these 2 terms. Now, you have, that's one term, and this is the other term. Okay. And in both of these terms, x plus 2 is in common, so that means I can factor that out. So I'm going to factor out x plus 2. And then in parentheses, I put what's remaining. So what I like to do here is cross out the x plus 2's, because I already took it out, and what's left over is the 10x squared plus 1. Now I'm left, now I'm done. Okay, so I factor by grouping. Okay. Now sometimes, depending on what we're left with, we could probably end up factoring it some more. But right now, I'm just showing you the basic steps on factoring by grouping. When we get to the part 5 video, then I will show you if we come across any special ones that this could be continued to be factored. All right? In this case, this can't, but sometimes there will be. All right, example number 2. All right, so put parentheses around the first 2 terms, parentheses around the last 2 terms. Make sure you put the parenthesis in front of the sign. All right, looking in the first group, what's common? Well, a negative 2 can go into both of them. So I'm going to factor out negative 2 and an x squared. Because this has 3 x's, this has 2, so that means I can take out x squared. Now I'm going to divide both terms by negative 2x squared. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is a positive 1. X cubed divided by x squared just gives me x, because 3 minus 2 is 1. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is a positive 2. X squared divided by x squared just becomes 1, so you're left with x plus 2. Here I can factor out a negative 3. And that's it, because there's no variables in both terms, so therefore it's just factoring out the coefficient. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a positive 1, and I'm left with the x. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is a positive 2. All right, now you look in these 2 terms, these right here are the same, so I can factor that out. So in other words, I find what they have in common, I rewrite it, put it in parentheses, cross them out, and what's left over, I put it within its own parentheses. Negative 2x squared and then minus 3. And there you go.